Tonight, Israel's hostage deal teeters on the brink.
A crisis is brewing over whether the truce will continue,
as fears of a nuclear Iran shake the world. Plus, showdown at the White House. Trump and the UK Prime Minister clash over Ukraine, the high-stakes talks with global implications. And
they're aiding and abetting an abusive enterprise.
The battle over the abortion pill heats up as doctors ship pills across state lines, how pro-life advocates are fighting back. And spiritual transformation in Brazil, the movement that's reshaping a faith, culture, and politics. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A deal on the brink, hostages, war, and a race against time. Israel and Hamas prepare for the next phase of a fragile ceasefire. Good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. Israel and Hamas say they are ready to negotiate the next phase of the ceasefire after Hamas returned the bodies of 4 more hostages overnight. In exchange, Israel freed hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. With the first phase set to expire Saturday, the clock is ticking while a major standoff looms. Israel is now refusing to withdraw from a key Gaza corridor, a move that could trigger a crisis with Hamas.
They fear that Hamas will smuggle weapons from Egypt into Gaza through tunnels in the area. Hamas says this is a violation of the deal. It's very upset. However, the talks have not collapsed. The ceasefire has not collapsed. Hamas says it wants to continue the dialogue. Israel says it is sending a team of negotiators to Cairo, a key mediator.
It comes as a new IDF report reveals the military failures leading up to Hamas's October 7th massacre. The report found that Israel underestimated the terror group and misinterpreted its actions despite clear warning signs. Meanwhile, the International Atomic Energy Agency reports that Iran's stockpile of near weapons-grade uranium has grown dramatically in recent months. Uranium enriched to 60% purity is just a short step from the 90% needed for a nuclear weapon. Since December, Iran has nearly tripled its production of 60% enriched uranium, enough for 6 nuclear bombs. Jonathan Saya, he joins us now. He is a research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Jonathan, welcome. So what do you make of this latest development, and how close do you think Iran is to having a nuclear weapon?
Well, Iran is practically a nuclear threshold at this point, and their nuclear program surged under the previous administration. The issue at hand is whether a deal would in fact be sufficient to curb Iran's capabilities. And the 2015 JCPOA agreement proved that it's in fact not capable of doing so, because Iran time and time again has demonstrated its lack of transparency when it comes to its nuclear issue. They have numerous different sites that they never declared under the previous agreement, and they will continue to enrich uranium as we speak. For the Islamic Republic, their nuclear program continues to be a main deterrence, giving their fragile military and increasing dissent internally. They see this as an existential threat, which is why they continue to keep their nuclear program.
Yeah. So the Trump administration has vowed a return to maximum pressure. Jonathan, do you think that does anything? Does that make any kind of difference here?
It certainly does. So we saw today with the Treasury Department sanctioning more and more Chinese entities that were involved in enabling Iran's ballistic missile program and drone manufacturing capabilities. So the maximum pressure campaign would have numerous pillars in curbing Iran's threats, which are primarily 3 threats, one being nuclear, the other one being ballistic missile program, and the third layer being their terrorist militias across the region. So long as the cash flow inside Tehran is blocked by the maximum pressure campaign, and ideally supporting dissent inside the country, supporting Iranian activists that are aligned with U.S. values, could have a very devastating impact on the Islamic Republic.
Let's talk about these ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Israel now says it won't pull out of this particular corridor in Gaza after initially saying that it would. What security risks does Israel see in withdrawing from the Gaza corridor, and how justified are those concerns about weapons being smuggled in?
Well, this fragile truce may now be entering an even more precarious state. On one hand, Hamas, although has expressed its willingness to negotiate for a second phase, it is very unlikely for it to abandon its military capabilities. On one hand, Prime Minister Netanyahu has pledged to destroy Hamas, and not delivering on this promise would mean that his coalition becomes weaker and might ignite early elections in Israel. I think the key issue here at hand and the key element would be the stance from Washington. President Trump has been very vocal and has a very staunch stance against Israel and, of course, American adversaries. So Hamas needs to tread very carefully.
And just a few seconds left, but what did you take away from that IDF report about the military failures leading up to October 7th?
Ultimately, our adversaries, their capabilities are not going to inherently halt just because we are amplifying pressure on them. The main issue at hand when it comes to Hamas's capabilities is that they're increasing their military ties to both Iran and they're receiving funding from Qatar. So long as these regimes are supporting these terrorist networks and so long as there's a foundation for them to build upon, these threats will continue to endanger American and Israeli lives in the region.
Okay, Jonathan Saya with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, just days after hosting French President Emmanuel Macron, today President Trump welcomed British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to the White House. The visit, considered by some as the most consequential meeting of a British Prime Minister and a president since the Second World War. Ukraine was the top agenda item, with the UK committing to a bigger role in future peacekeeping efforts. The two leaders also discussed trade and collaboration on artificial intelligence. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke followed today's meeting, and she joins us now. Caitlin?
Jenna, this is Starmer's first visit to the White House since Trump took office, and he didn't come empty-handed, arriving with a pledge to raise UK defense spending to 2.5% of the GDP by 2027 and 3% within a decade. Starmer reiterated Europe is prepared to play a larger role in future peacekeeping efforts in Ukraine.
No, we've already indicated that we'll play our full part in making sure that any deal, if there is one, and I hope there is, and I think this is a historic moment to make sure it's a lasting deal. And
Ahead of his visit, Starmer said he was hoping for a security guarantee from the U.S. to act as an added deterrent or backstop against future Russian aggression. President Trump said today he thinks his upcoming rare earth mineral deal with Ukraine will take care of that.
President Zelensky is coming to see me on Friday morning, and we're going to be signing really a very important agreement for both sides because it's really going to get us into that country. We'll be working there. We'll have a lot of people working there. And so in that sense, it's very good. It's a backstop, you could say. I don't think anybody's going to play around if we're there.
Trump went on to say the first step is making a deal with Russia and Ukraine. Then talks about peacekeeping can begin. Trump also said he's confident Putin will abide by whatever agreement is reached. Jenna?
All right, Caitlin, thank you. In trade news, President Trump announced new tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting Tuesday, while also doubling the 10% universal tariff on China. It's the latest shakeup in trade policy. Meanwhile, a major ruling on government spending, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts put a hold on a judicial order that required the Trump administration to release $2 billion in foreign aid. President Trump signed an executive order halting foreign aid for a 90-day review. A district judge ruled the money must keep flowing until the case is decided. But now the funds will remain frozen until the High Court can review written arguments. Wednesday, the administration announced it will cut 90% of contracts through U.S. aid and $60 billion overall in U.S. assistance. Coming up, abortion pills sent across state lines. Why this legal battle is a major test for the pro-life movement. Welcome back. The first major abortion battle of President Trump's second term is unfolding. America's largest abortion pill maker, GenBioPro, is asking a Texas court to add it to a list of defendants in a lawsuit from Republican attorneys general in Missouri, Idaho, and Kansas. The suit aims to roll back FDA rules on mifepristone. Under former President Biden, the Justice Department defended the drug, but abortion advocates fear Trump won't. If added to the case, GenBioPro could lead the fight to keep it available. With the abortion pill redefining the battle over life in America, doctors in abortion-friendly states are sending the drug to women in states where it's banned. Now pro-life advocates are taking action to stop that. CBN's Paul Petit reports.
Abortion pills, often sent through the mail, are reshaping the landscape of the abortion battle. In Louisiana, a New York doctor is under indictment, charged with illegally prescribing this medication to the mother of a pregnant teenager.
She had a gender reveal party for her child planned, and she unfortunately was coerced by her mother, and her mother is facing charges as well.
On January 31st, state authorities charged Dr. Margaret Carpenter and her New York company with felony criminal abortion by means of abortion-inducing drugs.
It's the law of Louisiana. Governor Landry, Attorney General Liz Murrow, and our legislature has seen fit that abortions are illegal in this state. And to ship a pill from another state is equivalent to me of shipping fentanyl or any other type drugs over here. They'd end up in the mouths and stomachs of our minor kids.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul calls the charges cowardly and says the doctor was, quote, providing basic health care. She's also refusing to extradite the physician.
Ultimately, what's happening in New York is they're evading and they're aiding and abetting an abusive enterprise.
This legal fight marks a new era since the overturning of Roe versus Wade in 2022. It's the first time a doctor has been criminally charged for sending abortion pills to another state.
Estimates are now that 70% of abortions are chemical abortions through pills that are sent via the mail.
Barton adds these deliveries can also directly go to minors.
There are now, unfortunately, so many places that there are doctors saying, we'll send these pills to you no matter where you are, what state you're in. And in some of these states, the doctors are sending these pills or approving abortions for children that are minors, and they're doing it without parental consent.
These actions led Louisiana to becoming the first state to add abortion drugs to their list of controlled substances. And in Arkansas, State Attorney General Tim Griffin sent cease and desist letters to 2 companies providing abortion pills through the mail.
Abortion is legal in Arkansas. However, we have heard reports that there are organizations outside of Arkansas that are shipping in medical abortion pills.
These moves highlight the growing tension with groups looking to circumvent state law by mailing abortion pills.
This is a decision between a woman and her doctor. Well, they've taken the doctor out of the picture completely, and you can essentially go on your phone and with a few taps, have these abortion drugs on their way to you via mail.
Across the country, the pro-life movement is ramping up to fight what they see as a dangerous trend.
There's not one quick, easy state solution to this huge problem of abortion drug.
Lawmakers in Indiana, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas are taking various routes to block these medications from entering their state.
It does make a difference to the American people, and it does matter that we once again start promoting, protecting, and defending unborn life.
In Louisiana, pro-life supporters are also calling on the Trump administration and Congress to take action.
There are some federal laws that need to be addressed in order to ensure that state rights issue maintains, the will of the people of that state.
There are a lot of different ways that we can attack this problem, and it's going to take a lot of work and sustained effort from the pro-life movement.
Paul Petit, CBN News.
Coming up, a spiritual shift in Brazil. Evangelical Christianity is sweeping the nation, transforming lives and reshaping its future. So we've seen reports about how God is bringing fresh revival to universities across the United States. Well, just a continent away in South America, Brazil is experiencing spiritual revival that's amazing to watch. George Thomas reports from Rio de Janeiro.
In the heart of Brazil, amidst the rhythmic beats of samba, and the vibrant colors of Carnival, something spiritually profound is unfolding.
We are on the verge of a religious change in Brazil.
Sociologist Jose Alves tells CBN News that if there's one image that symbolizes Catholicism's influence here, it's Rio de Janeiro's 98-foot-tall Christ the Redeemer. Inaugurated in 1931, the iconic statue celebrated the country's rich Catholic heritage. 94 years later, Alves says the faith's dominance is rapidly declining.
In 1950, 93% of Brazilians identified as Catholics. The church was losing about 1% of followers every decade. However, from 1991 onwards, the Catholic Church started to lose 1% of followers every year, resulting in a dramatic drop.
Evangelical Christianity, once a minority faith here, is now growing at unprecedented levels.
What you're looking at there on your screen is this beautiful blue structure known as the Cathedral of Brasilia. It is one of the largest Catholic churches here in Brazil's capital city. The surveys show that what was once the world's largest Catholic nation will by 2030 be overwhelmingly evangelical.
Signs of this growth are everywhere. Megachurches dotting the landscape, filled with thousands of worshipers each week. From Andrea Fernandez's church in Sao Paulo,
we are living in the fulfillment of a promise. For many decades, we have heard that Brazil would experience a wave of revival that would be exported around the world. And I believe that this is what we are experiencing at this moment.
To Lurival Pereira's congregation in the Amazon region, boasting more than 10,000 members across some 600 cell groups.
The foundation of our growth is these cells. The real revival is taking place outside the church walls. Every day, people are meeting in small groups in homes. It's the biblical model.
To J.B. Carvalho's church in the capital city of Brasilia.
We started the church in 2003 with only 25 people. Today, we have about 12,000 people in Brasilia alone. We also have another 15,000 people in Fortaleza. Our churches are spread throughout Brazil.
To Silas Malafais's church in Rio de Janeiro, one of the largest and most influential Pentecostal churches in Brazil, with more than 100,000 members.
In the next 7 years or so, we will be the majority in the country. Today, we make up about 35% of the population, and God's kingdom has influence in every corner of Brazilian society.
Marcelo Crivella, a well-known evangelical pastor turned politician, once served as mayor of Rio de Janeiro. He says that years ago, evangelical Christians hesitated to get involved in politics, but that's no longer the case. More than 30% of the country's legislators are now evangelical.
We are more than 140 deputies and more than 20 senators.
Many of them gather each Wednesday in the halls of Brazil's Congress for worship and prayer. The country's first evangelical church opened in 1922. By 1990, that number had grown to more than 7,000 congregations. Nearly 30 years later, it grew to over 109,000. The growth so staggering that one study found 17 new evangelical churches opening every day across Brazil.
Now in Brazil, 550,000 churches.
As Anete Rodriguez says, this dramatic transformation began, as in many great movements, with the most profound of practices, prayer.
I've always believed that prayer is like planting. You plant, 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 and at some point it will sprout, and then the explosion will come.
Those who have been tracking the explosive growth of the evangelical movement here in Brazil say worship has played a monumental role in the church's growth. And one Christian artist, above all, has been at the center of it all.
Her name is Ana Paula Valadão.
Even growing up, I had glimpses of crowds, of multitudes worshiping the Lord.
From the late 1990s to the early 2000s, her group's music became synonymous with a powerful worship movement that emphasized intimacy with God, passionate worship, and personal revival.
As I was songwriting, the Lord always made me very intentional. And the whole idea was about transformation, was about changing the nations.
She held concerts in strategic locations, drawing millions of people, many of whom were Catholics.
Like the carnival site in Rio de Janeiro, and we filled every soccer stadium in this nation. Jesus broke every record, gathering more people than any soccer tournament.
Because of her songs, many Catholic services in Brazil today, like one CBN News attended in Sao Paulo, have embraced a more evangelistic style of worship, shifting away from traditional liturgies to incorporate contemporary music. Father Antonio Luis Ferreira, who leads the Cathedral of São Sebastião in Rio de Janeiro, says the change is part of an effort to encourage former Catholics to come home.
People are attracted to environments where worship celebrations and moments of prayer are done in a more charismatic way. Today, a growing number of Catholics are returning precisely because prayer meetings are conducted in a more Pentecostal style.
Still, for Brazil's Catholic majority, the question is no longer whether they will lose their dominance, but how quickly. The answer? Probably faster than anyone ever expected. George Thomas, CBN News, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Still ahead, a planetary parade on the horizon. How to watch next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, the planets align for a magnificent show this week. 7 planets in our solar system will be visible in the evening sky in what's being called a planet parade. The planetary lineup includes Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars. An astronomy professor at Ohio State University explains how to see them.
As the moon moves across to the east night after night, it will change its phases. Watch that, really pay attention to that. It's going to then be moving against the background of the planets. We don't normally have them all in the same part of the sky like this. And it will really give you the sense of living in a solar system.
Yeah, and the planet parade happens every few years, and it does certainly help to put Earth's small place in the it's just in this magnificent universe in perspective, that's for sure. All right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for Friday. Take care.